Hello students, today we are going to discuss about retaining walls, and you can see on my uh, picture these are all different types of retaining walls, right? So here, especially when area is something like a hilly locality, then we require these all these retaining walls to support the lateral earth behind it. You can also see over here, and similarly, so these are all retaining walls. Now we are going to study in detail um, what is retaining wall and what are the forces acting on a retaining wall, and where did we use often all these retaining walls, and what are the pressure generated at the bottom of the retaining wall, and how to design what is a cross sectional profile and everything, and some technical terms related to retaining walls in detail. Okay, first of all, what is a retaining wall? Here, a retaining wall is nothing but a structure constructed to retain earth on back side of it, so that generally it requires it, especially at the hilly areas, for construction of roads and supporting walls. Right? It goes when a structure is constructed for retaining earth at their back, it is called retaining wall. It is a similar kind of dam, a structure that is dam. The only difference you can say, a dam is a huge masonry structure which is constructed across a river or a stream to store a large amount of water, and that can be utilized for the purpose of irrigation and drinking water supply, power generation, hydropower generation, and also navigation, fishing, etc. Similarly, a retaining wall is just like same kind of structure, but it retains, instead of water, here it is earth. And you may notice that in case of dam, water level may be well below the top level, or it may be exactly equal to the top level. And the retaining wall, as the retained material is nothing but earth here, earth can also be stored beyond its top level of the wall, and that particular earth which is stored on and above the top level is nothing but a surcharge, and its linkation with respect to top level horizontal is nothing but surcharge angle. Anyhow, these are all going to discuss in detail in the coming slides. Right. What is the necessity and where do we use these retaining walls? Necessity, while necessarily while executing highways and railways in, especially in hilly region. So wherever highways and railways are constructed in hill region, those in those particular areas, so we require to construct a retaining wall to lay a road or railways. And you can observe in railways also, for a hilly region, generally narrow gauge will be provided, because just to minimize the width required in case of a hilly areas, right? The material retained is called backfill and may have its surface horizontal or inclined. Yeah, we have discussed about it. It may have a horizontal or inclined surface, and when it is inclined, the angle with which it makes with the horizontal level at the top of wall is nothing but surcharge angle. And the portion fill lying above horizontal plane at the elevation of top of wall, yes, this is what we are discussing about. It's called surcharge, and I will be showing in the diagram what is surcharge and what is surcharge angle. Then the inclination of this backfill to the horizontal is called surcharge angle. Now we have to discuss about earth pressures on retaining wall. So it has been established since long time earth particles lie in cohesion and hence have a definite angle of repose. What is the angle of repose will be discussed in the next slide detail. For now, uh, it is a particular angle at which is particular soil may be left, may be set for that particular soil. in the form of heap left unsupported for a longer period subjected to natural um, forces and all. Yeah. These earth particles always exert some lateral pressure on the walls which retain or support them. The magnitude of this lateral pressure depends upon the type of earth particle and the manner in which they have been deposited on the back of retaining wall. Right. There are different earth pressures on retaining wall. One of the pressure from the backfill will try to move the wall away from the retaining wall, and in some particular circumstances, earth will try to the backfill will try to pull back the retaining wall, and these are the different types of earth pressures. Right. It has been permanently found that lateral pressure is minimum when the earth particles have loosened has been loosely dumped, whereas pressure is relatively high when the same particle having compacted or tampered or by rolling. This you can understand by even by general sense also. When the soil is just deposited like that without any compression or without any rolling, definitely there will be a little less pressure on the side wall. But when you subject it to uh, compact or some rolling kind of thing over the backfill, definitely that will give an impact on retaining wall to encounter a more pressure. Yes, the earth pressures may be classified into the following two types: active earth pressure and passive earth pressure. What is active earth pressure and what is passive earth pressure? Those are all we'll be discussing. First one, let us take up active earth pressure. So it is a pressure exerted by the retained material, that is called backfill, on the retaining wall and is known as active earth pressure. So here earth or backfill is exerting pressure on the wall. So what is the scenario? It will try to move the particular retaining wall away from the earth material. Okay, so as a result of active earth pressure, the retaining wall tend to slide away from the retained earth. So this is a reaction, and it has been observed that active earth pressure of a retaining wall acts on the retaining wall in the same way as the pressure stored on the stored water on the dam. So here, in case of dam, what we have observed, being a water will have a hydrostatic force pressure in the form of a triangle. You can see the pressure distribution diagram. Exactly at the free surface you will have zero pressure or pressure equal to atmospheric pressure, and by the depth you are moving downwards from the free surface, as you move linearly, water pressure will also change, and thereby when you draw a pressure distribution diagram, it will be triangle with a zero at the free surface and a maximum value of gamma h or gamma y at the bottom. So linear variation. Similarly here also, due to earth stored on the back, retaining wall will also experience the same kind of pressure distribution, that is linear pressure, just like the water has. And we have a passive earth pressure. Sometimes a retaining wall moves laterally against the retained earth, which gets compressed, and as a result of the moment of retaining wall, the compressed earth is subjected to passive, which is in the opposite direction of the active pressure, and is therefore it is called as a passive earth pressure. Right. Due to some circumstances, maybe below that particular strata, earth strata over which you are desired to construct, you are required to construct a retaining wall, there may be a hard strata in the form of a gradient, some slope kind of is there, and it is towards the slopeness is towards the backfill, and when you construct a retaining wall, due to settlement, it will try to move towards the backfill. There may be a chance prevailing to the foundation conditions and some special conditions. So in that case, what happens? Earth pressure initially was to some extension of compression, but while the while the retaining wall moves in the direction of the backfill, the it is compressed, backfill is further compressed and thereby creating a more pressure, and that kind of thing, the pressure exerted at there, that situation is nothing but passive earth pressure. And here, right, as a result of active earth pressure, sorry, we have actually discussing about we have been discussing about this passive earth pressure, right? Okay. It may be noticed that active earth pressure is a practical earth pressure which acts on the retaining wall, whereas a passive earth pressure is a theoretical pressure which rarely come into play. And you can compare both of these, active earth pressure and passive earth pressure, as by definition active earth pressure is nothing but a pressure uh, by the soil on the earth, retaining wall, and here retaining wall will try to move away from the backfill. So therefore it will be a lesser value when compared to the passive earth pressure, because passive earth pressure is happen due to wall moves towards the backfill and thereby more compression, compressive kind of more pressure will be created. Therefore when you compare both of these pressures, active earth pressure will be very much smaller than the passive earth pressure. And here at rest earth pressure will also be there, and it is in between both active earth pressure and passive earth pressure. And when you compare, passive earth pressure is higher, I can say at rest pressure is lesser than the passive earth pressure, and active earth pressure is further lesser than the at rest pressure also. And then we have to discuss about angle of repose, right? This is about this is nothing but an angle which represents, let us say we have taken a heap of soil which is just excavated and deposited on the some particular area without any compression, and it has left for environmental agencies, that is rain, wind, and over a long period. And what happened initially, let us say angle of heap is some 60 degrees with respect to horizontal. It may be possible 60, 45 also, but over the period when it is subject to water, natural agencies like rain and wind, what happens, the heap will try to flatten. That means the side slope of the particular heap will try to reduce further, and finally based on its ingredients, its particles of soil, what happens, that's based on its properties, a final angle of soil will be set to such angle. And what happens, even let us say certain angle is reached, and after that even wind blows heavily and even a heavy rain also occurs also, the slope is still maintained, and that particular slope is called, is nothing but an angle of repose. Like whenever any earth slope is kept exposed to natural weathering agencies, it gets eroded and assumes certain definite slope due course of time. And the angle of widening of earth slope at which further erosion of soil does not take place is called the angle of repose. And angle of repose of the soil depends on its nature and moisture content. And you can also define like this: if natural soil is left unsupported for long time, it will weather down until it attains a permanent slope with the horizontal, and that permanent slope with the horizontal is nothing but a angle of repose. And this is actually different from surcharge and angle of inclination of surcharge. Yeah. The retaining wall is used to maintain the ground surface at different elevations on either side of it, as we are discussing in the case of hilly region. It is subject to lateral pressure exerted by the earth. Yeah, let us say this is the profile of the earthen retaining wall. As we know from dam definition, a dam terms, we know that the top width is represented with small b a, and bottom width of a retaining wall is represented with small b, and capital H is the overall height of the retaining wall. And this is a angle of surcharge. This portion above top level is nothing but surcharge, and inclination with respect to horizontal at the top level is nothing but surcharge angle. And this P will be acting at an angle alpha, as that is equal to the surcharge angle. Earlier in case of dams it was exactly horizontal, because there is water and water does not have any surcharge angle. Water will maintain horizontal level, therefore P will also be horizontal. But here in case of retaining wall, particularly when the surcharge angle is there, P will be acting in the inclined direction as surcharge angle with respect to the horizontal angle. That will be a major difference between dams and retaining walls. This is the retaining wall with the surcharge, and you can also observe uh, dam and retaining walls both will have a trapezoidal shape. What is surcharge? The portion of backfill lying above horizontal plane at the elevation of top of wall is surcharge. You can see over diagram this triangular portion, whatever earth is there, that complete earth is nothing but a surcharge, and its inclination to the horizontal is called angle of surcharge. You can observe, you can see here, this is an inclination with respect to horizontal, that is angle of surcharge. Now let us see what are the forces acting on the retaining wall. First we have a earth pressure acting horizontally. Again horizontally it refers to the earth without surcharge. So when there is a earth well below the top level, or generally at the top level also, so up to the top level, here earth pressure acting horizontally. But in case when the earth pressure subject to surcharge or surcharge inclination, then automatically the pressure due to earth will also acts in the inclined direction. That is one force. And the second predominant or major force, as dams, as in case of dams we have self weight of the masonry retaining wall acting vertically downwards. So due to this weight it will stabilize, whereas due to earth pressure it will try to overcome, overturn. This is actually, the weight will actually stabilize. So these are the major forces. You can see in this diagram, capital A, B, C, D is a profile of a retaining wall, edges of a retaining wall, while small a is the top width of retaining wall, and small b is the base of the retaining wall. Capital H is the overall height of retaining wall. And you can observe here a triangular like kind of pressure distribution. So therefore center of the triangle will be h by 3 from the base. Exactly there the pressure, horizontal pressure multiplied by its uh, coefficient, will be acting uh, exactly at the CG at a distance of x bar. And there are two forces, one is horizontal here and one other is exactly vertical. As a resultant of these two forces, whenever there are two forces there will be a resultant, and resultant of force will be acting in this direction. This is capital R. The resultant at this position which cuts the base, this location nothing but Z. And yeah, E is nothing, E it was wrongly given here. E is nothing but from the center of the base, the distance at which this resultant cuts the base. This difference is nothing but E. Yeah. So next, a horizontal force due to earth pressure. The variation of earth pressure is a triangular. It varies from 0 at the top to gamma h at the bottom. This is for retaining walls without surcharge only. Yeah. Therefore, active earth pressure is equal to Pa is equal to Ka into gamma h square by 2. You can see over here gamma h square by 2, which is common for both dams and retaining walls, but only active earth pressure coefficient will be coming over here. We need to convert that vertical pressure into horizontal pressure, therefore we have a coefficient. Yeah, active earth pressure coefficient is 1 minus sin phi by 1 plus sin phi, where phi is an angle of internal friction. And gamma, specific weight of soil mass in terms of kilonewton per meter cube. And capital H is the height of the dam or height of the retaining wall in meters. and you have z is equal to x bar plus b by w into h by 3, and x bar for this particular triangular portion we have a square plus ab plus b square by 3 into a plus b, and then the vertical force due to self weight half a plus b into h into rho multiplied by 1, because it's a trapezoidal portion, area of that particular trapezoidal cross section multiplied by um, density multiplied by 1. For entire calculation we have to consider 1 meter length of retaining wall as we did in the dams also. Yeah, here as we know, small a is the top width of masonry wall and small b is the bottom width of masonry wall, and capital H is the height of the earth fill. This is also equal to height of the retaining wall when the earth fill is exactly up to the top level of a retaining wall, and rho is a specific of masonry wall, and it acts at a distance of x bar from the vertical base AD. So now x bar is equal to a square plus ab plus b square by 3 into a plus b. Now we have a resultant force. We have two forces, one is horizontal and one is vertical, and from these two forces we have a resultant which will be equal to r is equal to under root of p square plus w square. Uh, it strikes it at a distance of z from the heel. So z is given by x bar plus b by w into h by 3, and then we have eccentricity small e. It is a resultant, it is a distance between the resultant strikes at the base and centroid at the base. So if the resultant strikes exactly at the distance of b by 2, then there is no eccentricity, but usually resultant strikes a base away from the middle of the base. The distance measured from the middle of the base to the point at which resultant cuts the base is nothing but e, and therefore e is given by the distance z minus b by 2. And we have stresses developed at the base of the both toe and the heel of the retaining wall. So p maximum small p or sigma also you can give for stress. So sigma maximum or small p maximum, that is at the toe. So direct compressive stress plus compressive stress due to bending. Actually here we have a combination of moment and axial force. So as a eccentric load, it will be subject. Eccentric load may be equated to a direct force, central load plus some z, moment m. So due to that moment, you have bending stress, and due to direct compressive load, you have a direct compressive stress. And combination of these two will create a total maximum stress. And here, excuse. And here at the toe you will be getting a maximum stress, generally it is compressive in nature, and at the heel you will be getting a lesser minimum compressive stress. It may be compressive and it may be zero, it may be even tensile also. It again depends, the three cases may be arise based on the um, comparison between the magnitude of stress due to bending and magnitude of stress due to direct compression, right? Sigma maximum, that is at the toe, is given by w by b into 1 plus 6e by b, and p minimum, that is at heel, is given by, actually it is direct compressive stress minus tensile stress due to bending, that is w by b into 1 minus 6e by b, right? You can get the stress distribution based on the two stresses generated, that is a sigma maximum or small p maximum at the toe, and similarly sigma p minimum or sigma minimum at heel. And you can see in this diagram it is positive, that is compression over under the toe, but under the heel it may tend to subject to p minimum, that is negative. But this is not the case with the every kind of loading. You may get the two other cases also, like we have both heel and toe in compression, but at the toe will have a greater stress when compared to the heel will have a lesser stress. Both of them are in compressive nature. That is a one more case you may get. And similarly, when the bending stress is exactly equal to the direct stress, you may also get zero stress at the heel, but only a compressive maximum stress at the toe. Likewise, we have three different cases. Among them, one particular kind is typically shown over here. Yeah, but this is the most critical case because tensor stress formation is assumed to be neglected either for the design of retaining wall or even for the dams also, because the materials which will be subject to tension, let us say if it is constructed with a concrete, what happens to concrete? Concrete strength is about 10 times lesser when it is subject to a tensile stress. You can get a 25 newton per mm square in compression, but when you compare its tension, it is only 2.5. So such a huge amount of variation for the tensile stresses. Therefore, we'll try to avoid the tensile stresses whatever will come at the initial stages only. That means we'll try to increase its width so that that particular uh, uh, retaining wall will not be subject to any tensile stress at the bottom. Right. So at the toe you will get small p maximum, that is maximum stress w by b into 1 plus 6v by b, and minimum at the heel over here. It may have a tensile stress also. When you calculate, you will get it to know w by b into 1 minus 6e by b. Now we need to discuss about middle third rule. So what is middle third rule? So here it states that when you divide a base of a dam or a retaining wall into three parts, base, let us say B, is now divided into three parts, B by 3, B by 3 and B by 3, and the resultant when it is passes within the middle one third portion, that is middle B by 3, then it is said that the dam will not be subject to tension, tensile any kind of tensile stresses anywhere. That is at the heel also you will not get any tensile stresses. That is the rule. For no tension to develop in the retaining wall, the resultant should pass or cut the base within the middle third of its base. Right. When you calculate z is nothing but z is less than or equal to b by 3, 2b by 3, that will come to e is less than b by 6. So z is 2b by 3, z is less than 2b by 3, or e is b by 6, both are equal. So far we have discussed about what are the retaining walls and where it is useful, what are the pressures it is subjected to, what are the forces it will be subjected to, and various components of a retaining wall, surcharge, technical terms, that is surcharge and surcharge angle, and angle of repose. About angle of repose also we have discussed, and the formulae we haven't derived because it is also derived in the same procedure as a dams, as in the case of the dams we did, right? It's the same derivation we follow. I'll try to explain in the next class also if it is possible, right? So having known the entire procedure, uh, let us solve a small problem on retaining walls. Right, it is like a question is like this: calculate the stresses at the base of the masonry retaining wall of trapezoidal section, given top width is 1 meter, bottom width is 3 meter, height is 8 meters, and earth face is vertical, and it is retain earth with its top level with its top, and phi angle of repose is 45 degrees, angle of internal friction is 45 degrees, and gamma specific weight of backfill, that is earth, is 18 kN per meter cube, and rho specific weight of masonry 24 kN per meter cube, and so here rho is a unit weight of masonry. Yeah, that's all it is given. So here stability is also is to be checked, but details about stability, that is angle of internal friction or compression, allowable compressive stress, all those are not given. When it is asked, the details are to be given, otherwise also you can check one or two conditions. This overturning you can check, and the formation of tensor stresses you can check, right? So for this particular problem we are not bothered about stability, but only it is required to calculate the stresses at the base of the retaining wall, right? So based on the given details, we'll try to draw a neat sketch of a retaining wall showing all the details. Over here it is given top width as 1 meter, bottom width as 3 meter, masonry specific weight 24 kN per meter cube, and overall height of masonry wall, retaining wall, that is 8 meters. Gamma of backfill 18 kN per meter cube, angle of repose, angle of internal friction 45 degrees. Right, these are all the given data. Now let us first calculate the horizontal pressure PA. PA is given by Ka multiplied by gamma h square by 2. Now Ka is 1 minus sin phi by 1 plus sin phi. 1 minus phi is 45 degrees, you can substitute over here 1 minus sin phi by 1 plus sin phi. When it is calculated, it is 0.1715. Now P you can calculate by substituting this value over here. 0.17157 multiplied by gamma is 18 and h is 8 by 2. Remember, the units must be same. 18 is in terms of kilometer per meter cube and h is also in terms of meter. Therefore, you can substitute directly without changing. Right? You can calculate this simply 98.825 kilonewtons. This is a horizontal pressure. Now let us calculate the second one, self weight of the masonry retaining wall, that is W. Right? For the first sentence, we always require to write considering 1 meter length of retaining wall, because we are all dealing by considering 1 meter length only. 1 meter, that is most critical. Okay, the same calculation, the same dimensions may be applied to the entire cross section. Right, self weight of the masonry W is equal to A plus B divided by 2 into rho. Now A is top width, B is bottom width, and rho is specific weight of masonry. We can substitute small a is 1, capital B 3 multiplied by, this is actually h. H is 8 meters and rho 24, and you can calculate it simply 384 kilonewtons. Now let us calculate the distance of centroid of retaining wall, x bar. X bar for a trapezoidal kind of profile, we have a square plus ab plus b square by 3 into a plus b, where a and b are the top width and bottom width of retaining walls respectively. Now we can substitute a is 1, so 1 square plus 1 into 3, that is 3, plus b square, that is 3 square, by 3 multiplied by a is 1 and b is 3, and you can calculate it is simply 13 by 12, that is 1.08 meters. Now x bar is calculated as 1.08 meters. Now we need to calculate the z, that is the distance at which resultant cuts its base. Now z is given by x bar plus p by w into h by 3. Now you can substitute all the other values. X bar is 1.083 like this, and p is 98.82, capital W 384 into h by 3, again it is a capital H as much, both are equal in this particular case, that is total height of retaining wall 8 by 3, and you can calculate it is 1.77 meters. Now next step is to calculate the eccentricity small e, and e is given by z minus b by 2, and z we have just calculated, it is 1.77, right? So 1.77 minus 1.5 is 0.269 meters, and then sigma max or small p max is nothing but w by b into 1 plus 6e by b. W is 384, small b is 3 meters multiplied by 1 plus 6 into eccentricity is 0.269 by 3 b. Okay. When you calculate, you will get 196.928 kilonewton per meter square. Positive sign indicates compressive in nature. Similarly, when you calculate the minimum stress, again the same formula, but you will get minus over here. So 384 by 3, 1 plus in place of plus we will substitute minus over here, 6 multiplied by 0.2692 by 3. and you can calculate. Again, it's a positive value 59.072 kilometer per meter square. As it is positive, it indicates compression. Sometimes we may get a negative value also over here that represents a tensile stress. Nature is tensile. Yes, you can compare E value 0.2695, but B by 6 when you calculate it is 0.5. So E is less than B by 6, therefore minimum stress is obtained is compressive. That means we do not get any tensile stress when E is less than B by 6, that is middle third rule we have previously just now discussed. And you can also compare even Z value also. Z must be less than 2B by 3, then also you will not get any tensile stress within the base of the dam. Now let us talk about stability conditions. So as you remember, if you remember, in case of dam we have a stability conditions. We have four stability conditions. Number one, stability against overturning. Number one, and number two, stability against sliding, and number three, tensile stress formation, and number four, compression or crushing of the material. First one will take up the check against overturning. What happens? Overturning may happen because of earth pressure. Earth will try to move about the hill, whereas it will have a own weight, self weight of wall, which will try to restore. And if the overturning moment due to earth pressure is more than the restoring moment, what happens? Wall will try to turn on about its toe. That is the case. So here restoring moment must be greater than the overturning moment by at least 1.5 times. That is a factor safety to be considered for overturning. Right, in the lateral pressure P causes overturning moment M at the toe, and this moment M is resisted by self weight of the retaining wall W is known as MR. I can say here MO overturning moment and MR resisting or restoring moment. And if the resisting moment is greater than overturning moment, yeah, then it is safe against overturning. And uh, you can observe this is achieved by making Z is less than B. As long as resultant cuts within the base, anywhere within the base, then overturning will not happen. If the Z cuts do not cut the base, or simply uh, going in excess of its base, then there is a possibility of overturning. This is also a direct check you can apply. If the beam will be safe against overturning if the resultant line of action falls within the base. If not, it will be subject to overturning effect. Now, in the second overturn stability condition, we have to check against sliding. So here sliding will depend upon the friction between the soil and base of the dam or dam material, sorry, retaining wall or retaining wall material. Therefore, uh, the frictional coefficient will comes into the picture. Now the horizontal force P tends to slide the dam away from the backfill, and this horizontal force is resisted by the frictional force generated between the material and the soil, that is earth. And the retaining wall is safe against the sliding if resisting force is greater than the sliding force. Mu w is greater than P, where mu is the quotient of friction, right? Mu w by P is some factor safety, generally 2 is considered, 1.5 to 2 is considered. And here, as I said, mu is a quotient of friction, and capital W is the weight of the wall, and P is the soil pressure in terms of kilonewton per meter square. This is also one of the case. And the second and the third one is check for crushing. Yes, crushing. So this is also one of the check. When the so, right, we are designing or we are constructing a retaining wall with particular material, maybe concrete or maybe stone masonry or sometimes some brick masonry. Now what happens, based on the geometry and at the pressure and at the weight, unit weight, you will be having some pressure created at the bottom of retaining wall, that is especially at the toe. And what happens when you compare both stresses with the stresses at toe and stresses at heel? Obviously, stresses at toe will always have a greater value, and we are concerned with the crushing according to that greater value of stress only. Now what happens if for every particular material it will have a permissible maximum allowed or permissible compressive stress of that particular material, and if that particular allowable compressive stress is actually less than the actual stress developed, then it will subject to a crushing, right? The maximum stress produced at the base will always be sigma maximum, or sometimes you may say P max, small p maximum also. That is W by B into 1 plus 6E by B. These are all we have discussed and solved in some problem also. Now, if the sigma maximum is less than the permissible compressive stress for that particular retaining wall, the wall is safe against crushing. But if it is greater than the permissible or compressive stress, then what happens? Crushing takes place, crushing of material takes place. And for a wall to be safe against crushing, this condition to be satisfied, sigma max is less than the sigma permissible. Next we have retaining walls with surcharge. Okay, I think this is completely a different topic. I will be starting in the next class. Right, let us revise so far. So let us revise what are the things so far we have discussed. We are starting with the retaining wall. So what is the definition of retaining wall, and where situations where retaining walls are generally used? And here, as we have said, in highways and railways, and you can also observe, we have said about hilly areas, but you can also observe, particularly in case of flyovers, when the approach road is there, at the middle you will be having a piers, and at the ends approach roads will be there, and at the both sides of approach roads you will be seeing retaining walls. Earlier in the earlier days, it is just like it is shown in the picture. It is just like a stone masonry wall or some concrete wall. But what happens due to advancement of technology, geofibers and geotextiles are nowadays used, and especially in case of that particular flyovers and all, you will be seeing a different pattern, like some hexagon will be there, and those are all the design particulars of that particular firm or company, which they have designed their own style. But all the phenomena, all the science behind this is nothing but at the behind that particular retaining walls will be layered, some provided in some layers, and in between some geotextiles are provided, and they will be subject to some kind of compaction, and thereby it will not act as an individual, but it will act as a compact solid mass. And what happens if the rain comes over the earth fill or backfill? This we have not discussed here, but actually when it is subject to some rain, the soil mass or backfill will be having a much more weight, and much more pressure will be created, and to release that pressure some small holes are provided. Maybe you can see over here. No, so somewhere the small holes are provided in the retaining walls. Those are called weak holes. They are provided with the intention to drain of the excess water of excess rainwater, like water present in the soil mass backfill, to release those soil mass, and to reduce the pressure in that. Right. Okay. So we have discussed about the retaining walls and different types of earth pressures present on them, and why we need to take active, or we need to consider active earth pressure only, and what is the pressure distribution in case of retaining walls, and also solved some problems, and also discussed about angle of repose and surcharge angle also here, right? I hope this lesson is useful to you, and you understand up to here, and we'll be going to continue in the next class with retaining wall subject to surcharge and angle of surcharge, and we are going to solve some problems based on that also. Okay, yes, uh, we'll meet in the next class. Till then, bye, thank you.